neighbors have also encouraged me to be further away from them so that they can have their privacy that they've always had. I'm not going to have to cut down trees around them. I'm not going to have to disturb them during the construction. And we're all going to live in harmony in this beautiful town of yours of Westport. So tonight we're just asking you, under the Wetland Protection Act, it's the State Wetland Protection Act. It's not a local bylaw. I've spent the time, I've spent the resources. I even had an environmental attorney, Adam Brodsky, give the chair of the commission his interpretation of what the law is. And we're just asking you to, look at it, and hopefully you will find that this is the best location on the property for myself and my family to build a house and live.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Chris?
Mr. Chairman and members, this is Jonathan Buckman, map 37, lot 9, with an address called 0 Pine Hill Road. This is a notice of intent application filed by PMP Engineering, as well as ECR, with Brad Holmes representing tonight. The report date is September 10th, 2025. There is a file number with no adverse comments. It's SE802812. The site visit was also on September 10th, 2025. Description of the work: the applicant has filed a notice of intent under a limited project filing to construct an access for a single-family home. The access would alter approximately 3,611 square feet of bordering vegetated wetland and 14,000 square feet of riverfront, with 2 bridge crossings, one over an intermittent stream, the other over a perennial portion of the Westport River. The driveway has been proposed of adequate width to meet the requirements of Planning Board and the Fire Department. The site has an approved ORAD for all resource areas shown. Under the limited project filing, the Commission needs to determine the following under the Mass DEP Policy 88-2 for limited project access roadways. 1, whether the project satisfies the general requirements stated in the regulation. 2, whether it is appropriate to grant the exemption for provisions of 310 CMR 10.54 through 10.57. And 3, if the project is approved, what conditions would be imposed in addition to those required by 310 CMR 10.53 3E. The project satisfies the general requirements of the limited project roadway if the issuing authority determines that no other reasonable alternative means of access from a public way to uplands of the same owner is available. For the record, letters have been received from the immediate abutters, as Mr. Buckman mentioned, supporting the proposal, and also attorney has, representing the applicant, has provided a letter as well. The applicant is stating there is no other alternative area that could be accessed from the public way. In Massachusetts, the owner cannot file a limited project for a wetland crossing if a reasonable alternative exists that would not cause adverse effects to any resource area. The burden is on the applicant. The facts in this particular case: the property was purchased with an approved and recorded flexible frontage special permit, book 13-13243, page 320, issued by the Westport Planning Board in 2020. Prior to the purchasing, the applicant also petitioned the Planning Board to allow an extension of that permit approval in 2025. This recorded approval conditions specifies a 1.27 acre building envelope accessed off Pine Hill Road and designates some other areas not buildable per neighbor concerns. Both the abutting property owners, number 339 Ratcliffe and number 337 Fishman, who put supporting letters in, actually agreed to these conditions as contained in the recorded approvals. The building area is accessible from a public way and a reasonable alternative. The property, in fact, contains 2 upland areas. One is accessible from the public way. The other area is not, without allowing the obvious proposed work. So there is significant resource areas affected by this project. There is BVW, riverfront, and land subject to coastal stone flowage that would be altered in this project. My concern has been very clear to the owner of this property and to their representative, and it reflects in my recommendations. I recommend to the commission a motion to deny the limited project application by Banner Construction. Based on information provided, the Westport Conservation Commission should deny the limited project application submitted by Banner Construction, map 37, lot 9, for the proposed access route through wetland resource areas. The applicant owns a practical alternative located closer to Pine Hill Road that avoids wetland impacts entirely, which is the primary consideration under the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and its implementing regulations, 310 CMR 10.00. The property has a recorded approval. The Wetlands Protection Act requires that applicants demonstrate avoidance and minimization of impacts to resource areas. Given the existence of a feasible non-wetland alternative under the applicant's control, the proposed route fails to meet the threshold for an approval as a limited project. Approval would undermine the intent of the Wetlands Protection Act and set a concerning precedent for future applications. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any comments
Not at that.
regarding his?
Yes, sure, thank you. The limited project provisions don't say that you have to, if there's, I think what Mr. Bowen's referencing is that if you could put a house up in here, that the limited project provisions direct you to do that without being able to propose what we're doing to get the other piece filed. That's something that we looked at with the environmental attorney, and that's, in our opinion, no, that's not how the limited project provisions prevail. There's a case that they stated, the Amaro provision, the Amaro case in that legal brief, and they actually developed 3 homes. We're not proposing 3 homes, we're proposing 1. So the limited project provisions, the only piece of the limited project provisions that we need to comply with the state regulations is for the section of the riverfront that keeps you out of the 0 to 100. Every other portion of boring vegetated wetlands we're fall in compliance with less than 5,000 square feet. There are no performance standards for the land subject to coastal storm flowage. The inland banks to the streams we're spanning over, we're not even impacting those. Well, you could go up to 50 feet and then have to do additional reviews, but we're expanding over those. And as I said, when you look at that image, the beauty and the largest portion of the site that has upland is in this portion of the site, where we can develop that home outside the jurisdictional areas. So it's our opinion that no, the limited project provisions do allow for this, and this project has been crafted to comply with that, except that the only one aspect is being within the 100-foot zone. If we didn't have to, obviously we can't meet that because we have a driveway crossing. But if we were outside the 100-foot, everything else with this project would comply. We wouldn't need the limited project provisions. But the limited project provisions are there. They allow for these types of projects, and that's the only aspect of the resource area relief, I'll say, that we need, is from that one section of the river protection regulations for that inner 100.
So you're saying the line, the project satisfies the general requirements of a limited project roadway if the issuing authority determines no other reasonable alternative mean of access from a public way to upland of the same owner is available? So you're saying that that's not correct?
I'm saying we don't have,
But that particular sentence where it says that the public way that there's no other access from a public way to uplands of the same owner, you're saying that's not correct?
what I'm saying is, there is no other way to get to the upland in here.
That's not what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking.
When you say uplands, there's uplands here and there's uplands
All right,
there.
that's fine.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I don't agree with Brad on this case because it's very specific in the access roadway interpretation from the limited project for that policy 88-2. It specifically states, a project satisfies the general requirements of a limited project road if the issuing authority determines no reasonable alternative means of access from a public way to uplands of the same owner is available. It doesn't say the uplands that they wanted access, it says uplands. So in this case, the landowner wishes to access an upland area to which would obviously be better proposed for the property because it sits in a much better location. But I don't think the regulations specify that we should allow you to alter all that area. So I think my report stands truthful, and I have no more to say.
I
Do you have
just have a,
questions?
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, he had his hand up first.
Okay.
That was all.
I just had,
I
I just,
Commission.
do I understand that what you're saying is that other than the portion of the roadway that crosses within 100 feet of the wetland, in the riverfront area, 100 feet there, that you would not need a limited project approval?
Correct.
That, and I wanted to get to understand from Chris's point of view that is that is that correct, or would you still take issue with any of the other wetland impacts in terms of the crossings or the alteration of BVW? You know what I'm saying? So that the only reason that this limited project issue is before it, if I'm stating it correctly, just is that a portion of this road, I don't know how long a portion of it is within 100 foot of a riverfront area, and there's no exception to that in the riverfront regulations. And so they have sought relief through the limited project portion of it. I just wanted to clarify that that's what you were saying.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if it wasn't a limited project, then you'd look at the alternatives analysis.
Well, it seemed that there was, it seemed that if that was an option, then that's the first thing that we would be requiring, which would be an alternatives analysis under the riverfront regulation. It sounds as if there's a ban, in effect, like you can't alternative analysis your way out of the first 100 feet of riverfront area. Like you just cannot do work within 100 feet of the riverfront area. That's what I'm trying to clarify. And I think Chris is saying, yeah, that's it. You couldn't say, yeah, we don't have any alternative, we have to be in the first 100 feet. You wouldn't go to the riverfront area, you'd have to go for this particular activity, you could go to the limited project because there's one for roads. Anyway, I just so we know what, just if we deny it, we understand exactly what the nature of the impact is that we are choosing to deny it, which is the location of whatever portion of it is within the first 100 feet.
I can provide a little detail for that.
Go ahead.
So if we were over 5,000 square feet of bordering vegetated wetland,
Right.
the only way you could do that project is through the limited project provisions.
Right, but you have 3,000 and something, so that's not a problem.
So we're in compliance, so we're okay with bordering vegetated
Right,
wetlands.
right.
There are no performance standards for land subject to coastal foliage, and we're spanning over the streams. That leaves us with the riverfront.
Right.
So in the notice of intent, we've gone through an alternatives analysis and
Mhm.
provided that in the report.
Mm-hmm.
The limited project provisions say notwithstanding BVW, blah, 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 riverfront,
Yeah,
okay? So therefore, meaning notwithstanding the performance standards, here's your limited project.
yeah. I
We've
get that.
given the commission an alternatives analysis, even though we didn't have to. And as you look through the steps, the one that we don't meet is a minimum of 100 feet wide undisturbed vegetation. We can't meet that.
Right,
Therefore, the need for the limited project.
Okay.
Everything else, stormwater per the DEP, well, single-family homes
Right.
are exempt. Capacity of the riverfront, to impair groundwater, surface water. When you go through it, we meet everything else, and we're far under the size threshold of 10%, right, 3.8%.
right. Okay.
I think the issue is, what you're saying is if there was no other building envelope on the property, what you're saying is 100% correct, and it would probably be a pretty simple approval.
Correct.
But there is another building envelope on the property. So whether you want to say, even if, so that's why I said before, if you, let's assume you weren't in the 100-foot riverfront, or you had to do an alternatives analysis, the alternatives analysis would say that you should build in the other portion of the property, which has already been approved by the planning board. That's the crux of the issue.
And that's what our discussion with the attorney was.
Well, that's your attorney and their opinion. He just read it from the standards, and it's a different, you know.
The standards don't say that if you have an upland area that you can put a house, so you can't cross a wetland to get to another piece of upland.
On your property.
That's not what the limited project provision states.
So I have another question. And you're not saying that what you want to construct by way of a single-family residence could not be constructed on the parcel or the portion that is closer to the roadway. What you're just saying is that you prefer
Correct.
to be on the other parcel.
Correct.
Okay, so there's not, okay, so it's not like saying, well, I couldn't fit a septic system in there because there's not enough setback. The only place I could build a house. So, okay, so I just that's the flip side. The flip side of it is that you could do exactly what you want in this parcel, but you just prefer aesthetically. And maybe your neighbors prefer aesthetically, from what you were saying. I'm not arguing about that. The aesthetics is, we just, we'll be off by ourselves over here, they'll be off by themselves over here, and everyone will be happier that way.
And one other part.
Which I can relate to that, but it's still our responsibility to, apply the act the way we think it should be applied.
And one part of the riverfront regulations is to look at the economics. So the
Yeah.
economics of developing a property here versus what we're proposing is a lot different. So that has to be taken into account as well. I know that's not usually.
Well, I don't know, yeah, well, but you, well, I'm not disagreeing with that because I don't really know how that would work here, but at least what is in front of me, or in front of us, to say is that you're not saying it's economically infeasible to do what it is you want to do. It just may cost more. And I think if it was as an alternatives analysis, usually people come in and say, it's infeasible economically, or it's not practicable economically to do something, and so therefore, we've eliminated that alternative. But I'll shut up for now.
All right, any other comments from the table before we go to the audience?
Can I just ask just a quick question? Brad, is the driveway that's in the riverfront area, is it along the kind of the marshy tributary section, or is it on the river itself?
Well, it's not on the main Westport.
Yeah, it's on
River.
it's
There's
over, yeah,
Big inlet there.
yeah, okay,
So
Yeah.
this is the Westport River. This is the upland area here. There's a tidal creek /
Yeah.
wetland stream that comes in through here that we'd be crossing here.
okay. So my question is, when they delineate the riverfront area, this is a little bit unusual. Usually our applicants are on the water. There's a significant area of marsh between the flowing water and the uplands. Does the riverfront delineation begin at the water or at the edge of the marshy area? Because that makes a big difference.
We've established the edge in this ORAD. It's at just about the limit of mean high water in this particular reach. So
Okay.
it was wider than you would anticipate
Yeah.
because of, I think Brad was slightly conservative in this approach because we couldn't distinguish that it's all Phragmites.
Yeah, but
His estimation was agreeable to this commission,
Okay.
and we approved it.
yeah, because Mother Nature inherently gives us a slightly larger buffer zone, given that. Okay.
Anybody else at the table? Jake?
It seems that
Bert, go ahead.
this regulation's been quoted before, but no reasonable alternative means of access from a public way to uplands of the same owner is available. It doesn't say which uplands, how many uplands. It seems to me if there's an alternative upland, that's okay, but you have to be reasonable. It has to be big enough to do what they want, build a house and whatever else on it. if this is an alternative upland area is available, that they could do what they want, so maybe not have the same view than if it's the regulation.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I'm Sammy. I
Go
work
ahead.
for the engineering firm that did the plans you're looking at. Because we did actually look at this piece up front here, this building envelope that was on the plans, that was a part of the planning board approval. And I mean, it looks like a very big building envelope, like you could put whatever you wanted there, but that's not really the case with the most recent wetland delineation and definitely took off the chunk, as well as we looked at the soils in this region, and they're not very conducive for a septic system. You have really high groundwater, so it would actually be quite tricky to fit what Mr. Buckman wants to fit on the property. So it kind of piggybacks off the idea that Brad had about the economics and everything. You would have to bring in a decent amount of fill. This knoll out back is all sand and gravel. You know, you wouldn't have to bring in anything onto site, and you can just kind of use what is naturally there. But this is definitely a more difficult development.
If I may say, that's what Mr. Buckman purchased. So his anticipation was to make,
I don't agree with that.
well, you did, you purchased
I
this
purchased
sight
the property,
unseen.
that's
All right,
why-
Mr. Buckner, you can come speak in a minute. Let them
No
finish,
problem.
please.
I'm not trying
He's
to,
making a statement that's not true.
okay.
I just want
All right, thank you
to
very
shed
much.
some light on that. That's
Okay.
the portion that we've been talking about.
I appreciate that. Do you have anything else you want to add? You have anything else you'd like to add? Okay. Jake?
Thank you, Chair. As many people know, the mission of the Westport Conservation Commission is to protect Westport's wetland and water resources. And the one ability that we have to do that is through the Wetlands Protection Act. This land and this piece of land has been vacant for a long time. A lot of people have looked at this property, have tried to work on this property, and haven't been able to make it work. But we do have a building envelope that was approved by the planning board that came before us prior to. We have a situation now where the applicant may have the economic means, as we're talking about, to access that uplands up there. But my concern is that, and we're gonna see that in probably another hearing later on, and hearings we continually have, if there is an alternative available that does not impact those wetlands, that alternative should be what is used. It doesn't mean what is the best available for the applicant, whether the applicant wants to see the river or whether the applicant doesn't want to be on Pine Hill Road next to a neighboring house. Our goal and our mission is to protect Westport's wetland and water resources, and I'll continue to stand by that. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience or comments? Mr. Buckner?
Yeah, I was just gonna say in response to Mr. Cronin, I bought the property knowing that I would do something there, and I bought it with a pre-approved plan that was put forward to the planning board, knowing that I'd be going back to them. I did an extension because it was expiring from the previous owner, knowing I'd be coming back to look at the entire parcel to find the best place to put a house. And obviously knew about the upland portion, which is the largest piece closer to the river. And in my interpretation, and once we're going back to the Wetland Protection Act, it says if you can't get access from a road, which is Pine Hill, to an upland portion, and there are two upland portions, I agree. One were previously permitted by a previous buyer, but nobody went to the effort and the cost and the engineering to get it figured out on how to get to the best part of this property. And as a property owner, if you guys will own a piece of property, you'd want to be on the same piece. You wouldn't want to be up on Pine Hill Road where the traffic is or where the other houses are, or be on top of other neighbors. You'd want to be on that piece as well. And I've spent the time, the money, the resources, and had my engineers and team look at it, and we feel it's the best location. And under the regulations, I mean, I've done this, it's not my first rodeo either through DEP, and I know Mr. Weinberg, worked with the DEP for 28 years. I'm in front of the Northeast office right now on a big project up in our area. You can deny me because it seems that's the way that Mr. Collins told you to go. But if you do go that way, and I do appeal to a superseding order of condition, you get no conditions from DEP when it comes back. And I understand you can make that decision. I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other. But they will give us their standard conditions, they will look at it the way we're looking at it. And I spent the time and money with an environmental attorney who knows what he's doing. I said, tell me what I can and can't do. And if it's not good news, it's not good news. Then I'll build up top. And I was advised by Adam Brodsky at a very reputable environmental law firm that I can do it, and the letter went to you. So in the end, it's up to you what you want to do. I don't want to make enemies. I'm going to be coming to this town to build one way or another. I know a lot of people in town as well. And we just want to live in harmony with everybody. But with property rights in this country, if you own a piece of property and you've got a place on your property you can build, and yes, I'm disturbing some wetlands, but we're replicating 1.5 times what we are. We're under the 5,000 square feet in the Wetland Protection Act. And Westport does not have a local bylaw. You have policies and procedures. If you deny me, you're going to lose all control on this property if it goes to DP on a superseding order of condition. And that's all I can say to you. But you've got to do what's good and what's good for you.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you.
your time.
Does anybody else want to make a comment?
I just have one more, this is more of
You come on up.
a person, just, is that I think this is a very significant case because we're really looking at a fundamental question as to how to apply this provision and whether this issue of is it the applicant who is able to choose what area that is appropriate to use, or is it, as Chris has expressed, that the policy on its face seems to be pretty much black and white. And we don't have the benefit of what counsel's opinion was on the law case that was cited, and maybe it's dispositive, but we just don't know that. So, my inclination, what other people said, is to say, we should, it might turn out to be the wrong decision, and we have to then, take the time to participate in the SOC proceedings, but, that we should take the more protective approach to it. And then if DEP says we're being too conservative, it's their regulation and their policy, and that's their prerogative.
I can say if you want to continue and you want to check in with town council or whoever your council is and get your opinion, I'm willing to continue for one hearing and give you the time. If the commission wants to walk the property, you're more than welcome. But I'm not trying to sway you.
No, I don't,
If you want to get council's advice, you go back now that you've heard everything. I have no problem continuing for
We
one
don't
year.
have authority, we'd have to go through the selectmen for their approval to get the town council's use, so we don't
Yeah.
have them.
Well,
We don't have them.
I guess right. I mean, if we wanted to, I guess it would depend on, we could put that motion to a vote and decide if we wanted to continue the case or, accept, we'd be willing to continue the case, right? We could put that motion to a vote, and then if people didn't want to do that, then we could proceed, or we could just proceed on the vote.
No, I get that. Could you state your name, sir, if you could?
Sure. Mitchell Fishman, 337 Pine Hill Road. Just a couple of things. First of all, I want to say I never met Mr. Bachman until today, so I find him as a good person, someone that we would like as a neighbor. And I want to recognize that I've never been before this commission before, but I have been down in Hull, where I also own property. And I know this is a very difficult position for you all to be in, and I recognize that, where you have to balance what is right by the Environmental Protection Act and everything that you have, but also you're working for the town of Westport as well, in the big scheme of things. So as I understand what I've heard so far today, we have a 100-yard piece of wetland that we're trying to decide upon, where Mr. Buckman's willing to build a bridge over it to protect that land. And instead, if you say no to that, you're going to disrupt the neighbors of Mr. Buckman tremendously, devalue the property values tremendously, and deny him the one thing he wants of this land, which is a beautiful view of the river. So from my standpoint, there is a remedy to this, a very simple remedy of building a bridge over the wetlands. So you can demand him to build it in such a way that the wetlands are protected, and thus you're meeting your goal of protecting the wetlands. And you're also meeting the goal of protecting the citizens of Westport. We're here today saying we don't want a neighbor within 100 yards of our building. We don't want a neighbor driving his cars up and down the roadway.
That's not part of the Wetlands Protection Act, though. That doesn't come into account what the neighbors, that's really not.
Yeah, but you're also here serving the town of Westport.
But we
And
follow.
cars will be driving, trucks will be driving by our property while they're constructing. And
I appreciate that, but the state law doesn't take that into account. I understand that what your argument is.
Yes, and I appreciate that, but you have a remedy to the Wetland Protection Act.
Well, it depends on how you interpret, as this is the whole point, is how it's interpreted, right?
And
He
we're
interprets it
asking you
differently.
to interpret it in such a way that it does not harm the citizens of Westport who pay taxes in this town and who thrive in the town.
Okay. So, Mr. Buckman, excuse me, you gotta come up to the microphone if you want to speak now.
I live at 3.
Just wait till you have to, because this is televised, so that's why they want you at the microphone.
Oh, okay,
You'll be famous now.
sorry.
We get great ratings.
I'm Janet Ratcliffe. I live at 339 Pineville Road. My husband and I have lived there for 22 years. And we have a lovely property. We're surrounded by wooded areas. We have a right-of-way going through our property, which would be possible access to one of the other building envelopes that are alternative building areas. And to have traffic going through that area would really disturb our property and cause it to be very much different than what we've had for the last 22 years. We're surrounded by woods, very peaceful, and we'd very much like to keep it that way. We feel that Jonathan has presented a very thoughtful plan. He's done his homework. He's called in consultants with expertise on the environmental factors and how he would adapt to those. And we would like to support his application.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
So, Mr. Buckman, I'm sorry, go ahead. Was someone gonna say something?
No, I was,
If we, okay, 1 minute, man. Let me just speak. If we were gonna go send this to town council, if that's how they vote, we have to ask the selectmen, and it's gonna take more than 2 weeks. So that's up to you. So if you want us to look for an interpretation, that's gonna be depend on how they vote.
I'm willing to grant you for your peace of mind to
Okay.
do that, so that.
Well, I'm gonna let them make the motion if they wanna do that, if they wanna deny it, if they wanna approve it, that's totally up to them. Okay. I just wanna make sure you know it's not gonna be more than 2 weeks.
I just want to add one more piece before you take
Yeah.
a vote.
Just wait till he's done, ma'am, and then you can speak as soon as he's done, okay?
Hi, Susan
Okay,
McQueen.
you can go now, that's fine.
I'm just wondering if anyone's done a wildlife survey on that property, because I've walked quite a bit of it, and I've walked parallel to it, and there are fisher cat, turkeys, of course deer, and birds of prey. So I think that's an important part of wildlife protection and our wetlands protection, the habitat there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, go ahead, Brad.
Sure, thank you. The site is not within mapped habitat for rare species for natural heritage. One aspect that Chris mentioned was that we do have a DEP file number. The DEP didn't give us comments. DEP doesn't come out and approve or approve projects, that's not what they do when they issue a file number, as you know. But if we were proposing something that was double the size or wasn't in, wasn't permittable or in conflict with their regulations, we would get comments that, hey, you got 10,000 square feet of BBW, you're gonna need a LIPA, you're gonna need Army Corps, or if you're proposing a dock, they would say those things. So, meaning, the notice of intent has been reviewed by DEP, and we did get a file number. So it's, if there was something that we weren't in, if we were in conflict with the limited project, it would have been noted.
And I agree with you, it'd probably be 100% approvable if there wasn't the question about the other building envelope. So I don't know that DEP knows there's another building envelope, so I totally understand what you're saying. And if the other building envelope wasn't there, it probably would have just gone right through. So I think what we need to do now is let the commission make a motion on either approving, denying, or requesting an extension, so that if they want to have the town attorney review the other attorney's letter to see what their opinion is on the case cited in the letter.
So, if the chair allows, I would make a motion to request that we obtain approval to get town council's opinion on whether we have discretion, in this matter, and as to whether or not we can look at this alternative site, and what factors we should consider, if town council can advise us that we should, if we do have discretion, what factors we should consider.
All right,
I would second that.
all right. All in favor? Opposed? All right, that's unanimously on. So Chris, you're gonna just ask Jim Hartnett tomorrow and see if we can send it out to him, send him the letter and the whole packet, and you can speak to the attorney and see what they come up with.
Do you want us, you need to continue as...
Oh, that's right, yeah, so we need a motion to continue 4 weeks, for enough, you think? Or?
I
2
I don't know. I'm not sure if, I think it'll be received well. I don't know what the budget is of town council, and we are not the ones that have requested it.
All right, so why don't we just do 4 weeks, and then if there's any,
If we need more time,
if there's any issues, we'll request another things. So what's 4 weeks now?
That would be
October 13th.
15th?
13th.
13th.
Is it
If
13?
you need another couple of weeks, we'll give it a call.
All right, thank
Well,
you.
we'll notify you if that's the case, and then we'll extend it at that hearing.
All right, so I need a motion to continue for 4 weeks.
Motion to continue 4 weeks,
Pending town council.
pending town council
review.
consultation review.
To continue this matter
Yeah.
till...
Do we have a second? Second from Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's unanimously on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
All
night.
right, that's good. Have a good night.
Randy Gifford, RDA 175 Plymouth Boulevard, install roof, water drain, septic tank, and pump chamber buffer zone. Demolish home and use foundation with roof, roof as pavilion. Good evening, Lenny.
Hey, Len.
You could have stayed home a little longer tonight. Little chocolate cream pie tonight?
You know, you jinxed me. Remember you stopped by my house by accident? You thought it was someone else's house?
Yeah.
Within 4 days,
Okay.
5 days, my septic backed up. I think you did something to it. It was within days.
Lenny's throwing bags of quick down there. All right, Len, whenever you're ready, bud.
What we have here, this is 175 Glen Farm, Westport Environmental Design, here for Randy Gifford. 175 for the boulevard, as I said. This is for the boulevard at the bottom of the map. Up here is the Southwood Park. This project has been before the commission under the different owner, or prospective owner. And the septic system, and actually what that owner was going to do was going to take this existing house and redo it, just remodel it. And I had to put the septic system up here, get away from the farmers, with soil, so be it. What's happened in the meantime, another prospective buyer bought the property, he wanted to take this existing house and got it down to the foundation, and then put a roof over as a facility. So, that's one issue. And he wants to build a permanent two-bedroom home at the top of the hill, so it's steep hill. So consequently, what happens is new construction, I have to deal with stormwater for the Board of Health regulation. So what I had to do was to actually calculate all the volume of stormwater. So I have 3 facilities for stormwater, 1, 2, 3. In this particular case, this is 30 feet away from the pond, 28 feet at the closest point. And that receptacle is for the roof water of this existing house. We didn't need it before because it was a little bit of change, and it was just a remodel. But now with this house here, we have to deal with all this problem. So the actual buffer zone is right here, right across the lot here. So the septic system is out of it. The septic tank and the pump chamber is not, it's in it. But the septic tank's always been there as a septic tank pump chamber, but because it's new construction, we have to have a denitrification unit, which this is, the singular DN-19. So I've added a singular unit, not much different than the regular septic tank that we had, in a pump chamber. And that's all within the 100-foot buffer zone to the pond. There's no change in grades at all, staying the way it is. The grades will change at the top of the hill for the new construction, and that's all out of your territory, so to speak. This is the buffer zone here in the pond, and everything from here on is completely out. Well, I have to add this receptacle for stormwater for this roof. Well, that's why I'm back here.
All right. Thank you.
That's it.
Chris?
Mr. Chairman, members, Randy Gifford, 175 Plymouth Boulevard. This is a request for determination filed by Westport Environmental Design with Len Potter representing. Report dated September 11th, 2025. Did Board of Health approve this septic, or is it still pending?
It's approved, subject to you.
Thank you. Board of Health approved, subject to us. Detailed description of the work. The applicant is filed to conduct work within the buffer zone to South Watuppa Pond. The site has an existing home 47 feet from the edge of the pond. The work is to remove the structure and keep the existing foundation walls. The foundation will be converted to a pavilion with a bathroom. A new septic tank and pump chamber will be installed 50 feet from the pond edge, and a new single-family home and sewage disposal system will be constructed entirely out of the buffer zone closer to Plymouth Boulevard. 2 roof infiltration units will be installed to meet the Board of Health stormwater regs. As Len mentioned, one is down near the pond, still staying 50 feet away from that limits that we like to see for an RDA filing, and the other one would be further up near the existing residence. So recommendations for the board, seeing this is buffer zone activity, the Westport Conservation should issue a negative box 3 determination with Board of Health approval, with conditions to maintain erosion controls until all work is completed on the new home. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Questions, Glenn?
No question.
All right. Any questions from the table? If not, a motion. Okay, motion from Jake. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Bert. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You too.
See you, Len.
4 First Street LLC, RDA, 4 First Street, construct addition to house in the flood zone. How are you?
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Mark Boucher, Boucher and Associates, and I'm here this evening. I'm here this evening on behalf of my client, the 4 First Street LLC, the Saks, that owns this property. And you're here this evening as well, if there's any questions. we have a proposed site plan.
Do we have?
I have. It's very, very fun.
So the property in question, 4 First Street, down near the down near the Bayside Restaurant. And the proposed project is an existing house on the property now. And what my clients are proposing to do is add a 2.5-story addition onto the west side of the building. The resource areas that the work is being proposed in velocity zones. And the wetland on the property is to the south, and shown in yellow here is the buffer zone to that wetland. The area that the activity is going to take place in is actually a shed on the property in that general vicinity of the proposed 2-story addition. That shed is to be removed. It's a grass area, lawn area, and there are no changes to the septic system being proposed. There's no other site work being proposed except for the building addition. And the clients have already spoken with the building department and the Board of Health and gotten a positive response from them as far as being able to proceed pending Conservation Commission approval. And so we're asking that the commission vote favorably to approve the work that's being proposed.
Thank you. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, 4 First Street LLC. This is 4 First Street location. The request of determination of applicability filed by Boucher and Associates with Mark Boucher here tonight. Report dated September 11th, 2025. The site visit was also on September 11th, 2025. Detailed description of work. The owner has filed a request for determination of applicability to request the commission determine if the work is subject to the wetlands regulation. The owner wishes to install an addition to an existing small cottage on First Street. The wetland area is greater than 100 feet away from the proposed work, and the entire site falls within a velocity zone between elevation 18 and elevation 19. It actually splits in the site, as you can see there. This is land subject to coastal storm flowage. My recommendation for the proposal that the Westport Conservation should issue a negative box 2 determination with the conditions that the structure must adhere to FEMA building requirements. And in my opinion, this structure should be elevated, but I hope the building inspector has changed his opinion on this since we had a discussion with FEMA representatives and DCR with concerns for proposed uses of additions, etc., in velocity zones. So I would just be cautious with Mr. Souza's approval pending his final approval, because we did have a slight discussion on this one with another issue that came up on another project that Mr. Souza was considering for approval. So it falls under the building inspector's jurisdiction, not conservation. So therefore, I'm recommending that this structure meet those standards for building in a velocity zone. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any questions, Mark?
Just a comment to that point. There is a note on the plan stating that the work for the proposed construction meet FEMA standards.
Thank you.
Any questions, Theo? No?
No?
Motion?
Being
What?
in a velocity zone does not put it into the Conservation Commission jurisdiction. The velocity zone itself, they're more than 100 feet away from the wetlands, so.
Correct, but with the flood zone is still a jurisdictional area under the regulations.
Okay.
Motion approved with negative box 2 determination and obviously adherence, if necessary, to FEMA requirements.
Second.
Second from Phil. All in favor? Opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, continuances. Janice Ermley, notice of intent, Zero River Road, Lot 26G, construct single-family dwelling and driveway, garage, and other site improvements in buffer zone and bordering vegetated wetland.
See you, Mom.
Thank you.
All right, we have everything we need, go ahead.
Once again, I'm Tyler Drew with Beta Group. I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
Jenna Cermley.
So at the last hearing, we had discussed some alternatives. I do have the plan from last time. Do you want me to hang?
Yeah, please.
again?
I think the one issue last time was the back of the house.
Yep. So we've had a couple of weeks to discuss this. Particularly with the architect. Basically, it was determined that in order to complete any modifications to the house layout would be incredibly expensive and time consuming, especially considering at this point we've already made modifications to the layout based on DEP's comments and the Commission's comments. So it was our determination that it's just not feasible at this time to make the modifications to the layout.
Can you show the commission the activity that you're doing in there? You're still placing a force main through that area, correct?
Underground, yes.
Yeah, so, again, I spoke at the last meeting. I think it's not our issue that you've gone this far into the design process. I did reiterate to you a very long time ago that we have a 25-foot no activity area. You took it as the building's 25 feet away, but you still had activity in that area. So the design all along hasn't necessarily complied with that. And we, granted, for your record, this is a policy, we do not have a bylaw, I understand, but in new construction and the ability to design things, you can't stand and tell me you can't slide this structure a certain amount of feet. And if that's the case, then I would ask the board to make a decision if they feel that's warranted. So that's all I can say for the record.
So I don't think Chris wanted you to change the design of the house. I think he just wanted you to slide it forward 10 feet. So you're saying you can't slide it forward 10
No,
feet?
right, and that's the issue too, is
All right.
because I noticed deceptive on the plans, it looks like it only has to move 10 feet, to the east. But it's on a huge hill, so moving it to the east also, I have to drop it several feet. And then you have to redo the grading around the entire property, including, force mains up to the septic system and that, so that it's more extensive than it appears. And then it runs into the, costs of redesigning the property, the time, required to actually make those modifications and get it approved.
Clearly I understand, but I've expressed very strongly that this property and the size of the structure do not go together. You're disturbing way too much on this slope, Mrs. Cermley, and this slope is very, very, it's gonna come back to bite you. And this slope breeds water. When it rains, this slope just has water coming off it in every direction imaginable. So you're proposing, and I said this all along, you're disturbing way too much on this site. So I'm sorry that you've made a very intricate design for this house. I know it has a very cantilevered approach. It's very, but I don't think that's necessarily a concern of ours. That is more obviously with your previous design and your wish. So I'll leave it to the commission. I can expect that 25 foot isn't a big deal, but again, it's up to the board.
So is there any particular conditions? Because it sounds like it's not that the structure is going to be there, it's just that there's going to be digging, there's going to be disruption in that way. And
They're pretty good disturbance because they're going to dig a foundation, and then they're going to put a sewer line through that same disturbance.
Yeah.
So they're going to have in excess of, they're going to be right up against the wetland line, even though they're really claiming otherwise, because just the footprint of the work and where they're gonna put dirt, and so,
Well,
there's no retaining wall, you couldn't put a small retaining wall to give us 10 feet of, or 12 feet of no activity.
The slope right here doesn't warrant a retaining wall, and this is a kind of an interesting case because of the slope. Typically, the buffer zones protect wetlands down gradient, that's usually the concern, the runoff. The wetland is above the house, so there's no concern of runoff or anything like that. All the work, it's grading, groundwork, underground, and obviously will be restored afterwards. And again, the building is staying outside of the outlet wall. So I've been to the site myself, and I investigated this area. There's really very few trees over here, so any clearing that would be required within the buffer would be shrubs.
Do you realize the number of rocks on this site and how much boulders are gonna come out of this slope? I still don't, again, I'm not gonna sit here.
How far is the house from the wetlands line itself, the back of the house?
itself is about 25 feet.
It's 25
A
feet.
little bit more than 25.
The grading,
And when you're done, what do you plan on having behind the house? Nothing?
but they may need to service that, Mr. Chairman. That's a 2-inch force main that area needs to always be protected, in other words, Again, again, I've said enough. This is not my favorite site because of its condition.
I understand. But when it's all said and done, is it gonna be put back as wild up to like 15 feet of wild, of natural from the, or is it gonna be 25 feet of grass right to the wetlands? I mean, I guess that's the question. What's it gonna look like when it's done?
Yeah, I don't think anything specific was proposed back there. I know I did bring up last time, plantings or something, if that would, be more agreeable to restore the area.
I mean, I'm just gonna give you from past experience. I mean, I don't make a decision. There's how many guys here tonight? 6. Typically, what ends up happening is it'll get, when you're done, you'll plant grass, and before you know it, it'll just keep going back and back and back and back and back. That's typically what happens. So in these cases, we often request that there be some permanent demarcation, whether there's boulders, whatever the case may be, something put back there. So
It's not the homeowners per se, it's the landscaper that
That's
all of
right.
a sudden encroaches or
Yeah.
dumps his grass in there.
So maybe
It's easier.
maybe at 15 feet from the wetlands, they put a big rocks, a post and rail fence, something that demarcates that past this fence you can't touch anything. That would be something that we would typically do.
Yes,
And remember, just for the record, this perk is within 50 feet of a wetland. The only reason that is because this is a grandfathered lot. Okay? So under our normal requirements, you should have been 100 feet away from the wetland with your septic system. So there are some allowances on this site that are being forgiving for the applicant to construct here, in other words. So I don't think the commission's request to have a barrier, I'd be willing to agree to that if it's contentious as it may seem to be.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I just have a question. So when you begin excavation, and there are going to be some massive rocks, boulders, that may play a kind of structural role in that slope, I guess, what are the odds that you'll disturb enough boulders to affect the integrity of the area? Because if the slope starts to cave in on you, there's no place else to go. Then what do we do?
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying. In terms of the general slope, this area, like I said before, it's not particularly steep, so you're not looking at large landslides or anything like that. In the event that they pull up boulders, they can really just rebury them as long as it's not in a location of a force main. They can put that all right back in, and because of the grading going on along the site, they can reuse fill as needed, to shape the area, that sort of thing.
I would never boulder.
Aside from knowing the applicant, it just
personally, but that's something your contractor can suggest.
All right, so any questions, comments?
So we were basically continued 2 weeks ago to shift.
To see if they.
To see if we can shift, right, to see. And
It's not feasible.
it's expensive and it's a big overtaking, and now we're trying, which would have been approved, and now we're caught between what we're gonna do in a back little narrow piece, if we're gonna consider this.
Well, my suggestion was, in lieu of them moving the house, which they say is not feasible,
Yeah.
whether I know, whether, I'm not an architect, I don't know if it is, or as an engineer,
Yeah.
that we put a stockade, once everything's done, and we put or not we, but they put some kind of a fence demarcation point, which would be managed by Chris.
A
at
split
the-
rail
at the
fence or
15 feet,
something.
15 feet from the wetlands. So it still gives them 10 feet to get around if they need to maintain the house, obviously, or whatever, just that section of the house.
Got it.
You know, I mean, because the other section, as you can see, that comes to a point. The other section is much farther away, which they can maintain the full 25 feet, which, you know, you should, so that whole area should be demarcated so that they know that, or the landscapers know not to intrude on it. That was my suggestion.
When the slot ends up on the market, should I get angry?
Why?
Because we'll have to deal with the new owner that has total different expectations. So, I
You want to put the house on River Road instead?
mean, no, this is the site that's gonna haunt. So, that's all.
And any other questions?
Maybe we need a hold harmless agreement.
Well, I'm not gonna get that far. I'm just trying to, again, that's
Okay.
within the seller or owner's
Yeah.
prerogative.
If no
Okay.
more questions, a motion would be great.
All right, so I don't have the site information to say what I'm approving.
I didn't write one because of the fact that
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
hear from them, so
yeah.
again, we have a specific amount of conditions.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so we
All right.
will condition this, obviously, for your application, nothing extra than what you've specified, but we'll lay it out in the order of
And-
conditions to make it more,
So basically what I'm suggesting is the rear of the
Yeah.
house,
for us in
have a
the end.
25-foot no activity zone, except for that one piece where it goes to 15.
Oh, okay.
And have some kind of demarcation which can be
Okay.
worked out in the field with Chris, whether it's boulders, whether it's a stockade
Okay,
fence,
all
whatever.
right, I'll give it a try. So I move to approve the plan for Janet, excuse me. I don't have my glasses on, so I should do that. Janice Azurmali? Azurmali? At 0 River Road, Lot 26G, for a single-family house and garage and other improvements, with the condition that a demarcated 25-foot designation, except for the area near the home, which would be reduced to 10 feet.
15.
15 feet in compliance with the construction standards that the agent that approves of.
All right.
I'll second.
And all other conditions put forth by Chris, he's gonna deal with the
Yeah.
replication, all that.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Jason second. All those in favor?
I-
Approved? I mean, I'm denied. Oh, Jesus Christ, opposed?
Opposed.
All right. So,
And just for clarification, we gave them the opportunity to do a 10 or 15 foot move it and thumbed their noses and came back here with the same plan and you guys approved it, so whatever. I'm opposed. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. You know, we do.
can I have my agenda back, please?
Yeah, no,
Oh, yeah.
You know, we protected a lot more of the resource area through the
Thank you.
design, so.
All right,
Thank you.
John and Lucy Souza, 17 Legacy Lane, SE 802233. That's a certificate of compliance.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a certificate of compliance for John and Lucy Souza, 17 Legacy Lane. Certificate of compliance, original engineer of record of civil engineering concepts. The file number is SE 802233. The site visit was on September 11th, 2025. Description of the work, the owner has filed for a certificate of compliance for a single-family home constructed on Legacy Lane. The work was reviewed and determined to have been completed in accordance with the order of conditions in the plan of record. All areas are stabilized and growing. Recommendation, the Westport Conservation should issue a full certificate of compliance for file number SE 802233 as all work has been completed according to the plan of record.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next, we have Christopher Carrero, Lot 5, Joanne's Way, SE 802306, also for certificate of compliance.
This is Christopher Cadero. He is in with Joanne's Way.
Is Cadero or Carrero?
Carrero, I'm sorry,
All right.
Mr. Chairman, you are correct, Carrero.
All right.
Joanne's Way, type of filing, it's a certificate of compliance. Your plan of record was designed by SciTech. The file number for this project is SE 802306. The report is dated September 9th, 2025, as well as the site visit. Detailed description of the work, the owner has filed to request a certificate of compliance for file number SE 802306 for a single-family home, sewage disposal system, and a well constructed in 2017. All work has been completed according to the plan of record. Recommendations: Westport Conservation should issue a full certificate of compliance for file number SE 802306 as all work has been completed according to the plan of record for Christopher Carrero, Joanne's Way.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move to issue the certificate of compliance for file SC 80-2306.
I second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next, we have some bills and minutes. So we have an East Bay Media advertising bill, $184.50. Need a motion to pay?
Motion to pay.
A second?
Second.
Second, Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next, we have minutes from 9/2/25. Kevin was there, let's see, Burton, Phil, and myself. So we can vote on this. Jason was absent.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Next, we have minutes from 8/19, present, Burton, Kevin, Phil, and Jason. So we can vote on this.
And who, Kevin?
Yeah, we can vote on this. If someone wants to make a motion.
Motion approved.
All right.
Second.
There's Kevin and Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Yeah, I believe so. Next, we have minutes from 8/5. Let's see. I was here, Jason was here, Phil was here, Burton was here. So we can vote on these as well. The trifecta tonight.
We've been holding on to him.
Do we have a motion to approve the August 5th minutes?
So moved.
Second. Second, a second from Kevin. All in favor? Opposed? All right, that's unanimous. So. Phil and Kevin. And what do you have, Chris? Anything tonight?
Well, yes, we did receive BBC's response comments to the, it's the Bisco Point West property, but it's known by Brian Corey's involvement. This is the main road property where there's a public water supply approval to construct, and the supplement application has been filed to the DEP Public Water Supply Division for that approval. Based on the pump test results, BBC's Horsley and Witten's geoscientist has come back with relatively similar comments to Campbell, but he's reflecting that he believes, first of all, Campbell agreed that there would be an impact to the wetland immediately around the wells from the drawdown. The source of this water is through an artesian well, but these unconsolidated sediments that surround that bedrock also are saturated. So a lot of this wetland receives its water from those unconsolidated sediments. If this well is drawing into those unconsolidated sediments and pulling that water beyond those and into the bedrock, it actually is starving that existing wetland system from that normal source of water it may naturally get. So their argument is that there is much more impact to the BVW than 4,200 square feet, which is what that roadway design and well construction was altering. Second to that, they feel because of that, that this wetland and Angeline Brook are directly connected because this brook receives that cool influence of water from that artesian water as well as from those unconsolidated sediments. So if the water is brought down below that actually influx of water that comes out of these unconsolidated sediments and feeds that actual stream would be depleted. So in a nutshell, they feel that there are impacts, and again, they basically explain it similarly as I have mentioned. This is a cold water fishery. So at the last meeting in July, Mr. Chairman wasn't here, there was a discussion with Phil, Jason, Jake, and I think Kevin. And we had discussed that the commission would not take action on this with the Water Supply Division and allow BBC to move with their potential appeal or their case. So I don't know if Member Phil wanted to add to that. I see that there are impacts here, but we still have a lot of unanswered things as far as a superseding order that has not been issued. So this site is still in limbo, in my opinion, and whether or not they get a public water supply approval, they still have a lot of other things that still need to be implemented for it to come into compliance. So I'll see if Phil, how you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at one point, before George or Horsley Wheaton got involved, what the applicant's Hydrogeo, what's his name, Peter
Dillon was
yeah.
Corey's representative.
Right,
Correct.
okay, and so he was saying, well, I'm going on vacation, but I want to have a meeting, is what he said, to come back, and so we haven't heard from him. So, yeah, I mean, I think that. Well, one, it would just be interesting to get some feedback from George Campbell about what he.
I did send him, and I haven't got any.
Yeah.
But I do know that Horsley and Witten contacted George.
Yeah.
And George was
Yeah.
on vacation,
Yeah.
and he said, "Get in touch with me." So
Yeah.
I think they spoke before they
so
formalized this.
I don't.
but
Yeah.
I have not
Yeah.
verified that with George.
Yeah. I mean So I have two thoughts. One, I think I don't know if DEP is going to respond, because the position that the water supply people have taken is that they're complying with everything they need to do under the water supply regs, and I don't know if this is going to move them to do anything differently. And this is also under this limited project approval, where there's like once you putting the observation wells in, there's nothing in that's easy to do, but then when you get to actually operating the wells, that's where they have to avoid and minimize, and we have a lot of discretion, to make it, and this is where not necessarily to deny the project, but to condition it in a way that that if Horsley Witten is right, would have a significant effect on the project. But then we don't really know what the project is at this point.
Thank you. That's true as well.
And that could have a big effect on it, because this is set up. These pump tests are set up like that. They're doing maximum for 2 days straight.
Yeah, they're pumping it hard, right?
Yeah, they're pumping it really hard, and so the other thing that I was curious about from Chris's point of view is Horsley makes the point that all the water from the pumping was basically put back ends up going back into the wetland.
They drain the site
Yeah.
back towards where they were sampled.
Yeah.
So where did the water go? They pump it. And
They
where
pumped
did
it
go?
uphill and it drained right back down
Yeah,
to them.
yeah. And I just wondered, I don't know
Yeah.
what you do, like, yeah, but there, like, I was wondering for myself, I don't know, like, would it, how do I want to say this? Like,
Should have been pumped.
how far away do they really, have to pump it as a practical matter? Like, is this just kind of standard operating procedures? I mean, they can't say, oh, we're just going to pump it out to Main Road. So everything around there, there's a lot of wetland around there. So I didn't know, so there's the things I'm curious about. But yeah, I just think that, I guess,
So what's the next step? We're gonna guess Horsley Witten and
We let them
and George
proceed
Campbell?
forward, and if they don't get an opinion from the Water Supply Division to perform different specific test requirements where they feel should be implemented, then it proceeds through superseding or another potential appeal, but they can't really appeal anything because
it's not,
I don't know how you appeal a public water supply.
yeah, I mean, I haven't
application.
looked at, like, Board of Health, you go to Superior Court. There's no DEP doesn't, have, it's not like wetlands.
So again, as I mentioned,
So I
there's
don't- I
still a
don't know what would
superseding order pending
Yeah.
for a second filing. The first one expired, they filed the second one, they implemented a restoration area further to the south. Again, that's pending. We did make it strong to the applicant that when he goes to utilize these wells, he's gonna have to file another NOI. And when he ties into these wells and goes to utilize them, so we still have that.
Yeah, that's the big.
And that's where Phil is reflecting that at that time, we could implement conditions where he can't, detrimentally cause harm to the wetland system by this, so.
So there's
But I
nothing for
think
us to
that-
do with this report then?
No,
really?
this is just a discussion and
Yeah.
information for you guys.
I mean, just say the one other thing is that what Buzzards Bay and Horsley Witten was saying is that, like, if you would agree to, what's the right word? That if you agreed that the impact was not, what the square footage, that they'd have to come back. I'm not quite sure what the process is, and come back and we could say, well, you need to come in and, redefine what your impact area is.
Yep.
And so,
But how do we determine that? I mean, how do we?
well, that was what the, I don't know. I mean, it's a,
We don't even, I mean, originally, this is a long time ago, weren't they gonna draw down slowly, like 24 hours a day, fill tanks up, so they wouldn't be pulling it all at one time, or it was mixing it up with another project?
Well, they cycle two wells, so there's a well field that you cycle, so you pull out of one, and so you cycle them, so you're not drawing solely out of one all the time, but, I'm not sure, I know we were going to approve a pump station and location of the well facilities, but.
Well, why don't we just let them do what they have to do with the state, and then when they come back to us, we'll deal with it then? That's really what, it's up to them at this point, right?
well, this is just an aside, but we're, so the Board of Health is, we're kind of working on upgrading our private well regulations, because there's nothing in our regulations as compared to a lot of other towns that actually require a certain amount of capacity. Like, how big a well, so it's like, is he gonna build a condo with 10 bedrooms? Or is he gonna build with 20 bedrooms?
You talking about a public water supply well?
No,
or
no.
a well for my house?
I mean, it could be a public water supply. I mean, I guess they're doing it through a public water supply well. So, I don't know if they do a capacity requirement in terms of whether they've sized the wells because they have a project in mind as to what the demand is going to be, or, it's just like a lot of unknowns, so.
It was a single-family house, or you're talking about like a project with multiple units?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the idea was, at some point, that we thought there was condos were gonna be built there.
Yes, I
Yeah,
believe you are correct.
and part of the, I was just saying, related to the demand as to, well, how many how many people are gonna be there, how, it's 110 gallons a day is kind of what we use in Board of Health for
Right.
what the demand is,
Yeah.
but,
I don't remember, it's a long time ago, but I know they had talked about some number of gallons of water per day. And
yeah.
It wasn't a
yeah,
lot, but then
yeah.
again,
Well, they're staying under that 10,000 gallons, Mr. Chairman, so there's a
Yeah.
threshold that they're trying to stay under, which puts them in another classification.
I
Yeah,
guess we were at this point.
for the disposal end of it.
Right.
Because then they need a DEP permit rather than getting a local.
So is the superseding order still open for what, 2 years now?
They never issued a superseding order. It was,
Yeah, it's in limbo.
pending for 2
So-
years.
so-
So the state has 121 days, 120 days to make a decision. So that it's, in my opinion, I think it would almost be considered automatically approved. If we waited that long, that's how it's perceived. But I don't know in the state situation how they didn't, again, usually they request for supplemental information, it stops the clock.
There's a lot of retirements and COVID and all that
That's
stuff.
what's happened, yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. So.
But nonetheless, does the state know they need, this is sitting out there, they haven't issued
I'm not quite sure yet.
whether it's an approval or denial, they haven't issued anything.
Correct. Well, it may come to head because the drinking water supply is being asked, so they may look into that. But I know the owner is looking to sell, so he thinks, he feels if the public water side gets approved, he has a sellable piece of property. But he doesn't want to sell one, they come together as a package. Remember, he owns both sides of the road. So his number that he wanted was quite exorbitantly high for what the Land Trust and Buzzards Bay Coalition, I think, could consider under an appraisal,
Right.
what it would be valued, so. That's all I have, Mr.
So
Chairman.
just that one, I don't want to keep us here all night, but quick. So when I made the incorrect assumption that when they did a well pump down test that the water was taken off site. If they pump water out of a well and they pump it uphill, which it's an uphill gradient toward Main Road, and they dump the water out and it goes back downhill, doesn't that inherently, like, at least raise question, if not invalidate the well drawdown? I mean, it's going to refill itself. It's like a big circle.
I think it's yes.
All right.
I think it's not. I think they should have pumped it out to the field and ran a hose way over to the north and had it go into the field and not, they pumped it up the road so their dirty rut tracks just had it conveying right back down, literally right back down the road to where they were.
But if you were the hydro scientist whose job it was to interpret a test, I wouldn't need a 15-page or 20-page
Yeah.
report. I would say, you pumped it uphill and it rolled back downhill and it replenished the well. Figure out how to do a better test.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe at this point that it was pumped
Well,
uphill.
I mean, but
Well, it's an
but-
artesian well, so by
Yeah.
the time that water
Right,
made it back
right,
through
yeah,
the soil,
yeah.
it would have been quite a long time.
Yeah, that's.
But they had
exactly.
piezometers that they were measuring, which is the surface
Right.
Yeah.
wetland issues. So
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It-
where they could have affected.
Right. It was more like, I mean, they were just making the case that there was a much larger wetland area would have been, impacted had they not been replenishing it.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah,
pumping on the east
exactly.
side of Main
But,
Road, correct?
Yeah, they're pumping up to the east, yes.
But now the cold water fishery in question is,
Way to another
west.
400 feet to the west.
Oh, so they pumped on,
His own property.
okay, not on the other side where you can see the well out in the field.
No.
It was on the.
Well, the well's not in the field, it's down the laneway.
Yeah.
What you see in
Yeah.
the field is not a well.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know, I mean, I'd be curious to see what, George thinks about that, or how big an influence it was.
All right, Mr. Chair.
all right, the motion to adjourn?